Hello everyone, and welcome. In this tutorial, we will be exploring cameras, one of the most commonly used imperative elements when working in the Omniverse viewport. In this tutorial, I will be using Create. However, this tutorial is relevant to anyone using Create, Machinima, View, and a variety of other Omniverse kit-based apps. If you are looking at a viewport in Omniverse, chances are high this tutorial will be for you. This tutorial does assume that you know how to navigate in the Omniverse viewport, and it will not be covered. Please search for my video on Omniverse Navigation Basics if you need help in that department. Then come on back. Okay, let's begin. On my screen, I have this nice little scene that I have assembled from Marble's assets. To follow along, load up any of your own personal content or example content found on the Omniverse Nucleus mount. So long as you have something to look at, you will be able to follow along. All right, so to begin, we have our perspective camera, which is just a default camera. When creating a new scene, this is generally all you will have until you create a camera to use. By creating a camera, we will also gain some additional control. To do so, you can either use the top menu, then Create, Camera, or you can right-click in the viewport and select Create Camera. Notice that the top menu creates the camera at the scene's origin, while the right-click method created it where you clicked. We should also note that whenever we create a camera in the viewport, the stage responds accordingly. We can now select our cameras in the stage and adjust the properties, or, as we will do now, delete them. Okay, so those two methods are both valid. But there is one additional method that is very useful and is generally how I create my cameras. Let's use our perspective camera now to focus on something in the viewport by selecting an object and pressing the F key. Great. Let's go ahead and select the camera menu in the viewport, then select Camera, and then Create Camera from Viewport. Nice. Now, unlike creating the camera from the menu, our viewport was switched automatically to the new camera, so we are already looking through our new camera, and we are exactly where we framed our shot. Very useful. If we wish to switch back to perspective, simply select the camera menu again, and select Perspective. Move your perspective camera to a new location, and select Create Camera from Viewport again. Now you can switch from camera to camera easily using the same camera menu. Pretty cool. Okay, so now that we know how to create cameras and frame our shots, we get into some of the more artistic nitty-gritty of a shot. By default, the camera is a clean, infinitely sharp view. Beautiful in its own right, but maybe not what you want. To introduce some real-world camera qualities, let's introduce some depth of field. To do so, select the camera in the viewport that you are looking through. For example, I am looking through camera 01, so I will select camera 01 in the stage. Now in the Properties panel, I can adjust my camera and see the results in real time. Now let's select the f-stop and set it to 0.1 to begin. This will give us a very tight band of focus. It is useful in figuring out our focal distance. Now let's adjust that. When we do, we will get a blurry view. Don't worry, just increase your focus distance until you see a sharp band on what you need to focus on. Once you have hit your distance nicely, open up your f-stop until you have the amount of depth of field you want. Nice, wonderful. Now we have some nice softness introduced as the picture resolves into focus only where we want it. Let's finish our shot and use our focal length to frame our shot nicely. Awesome. Looking much nicer, no? Now we have lots of other adjustments we can do within the camera. But the balance, f-stop, focus distance, and focal length will be your primary and regularly used tools to control the camera. I do, however, want to also pick out the fisheye lens section. In here, you can switch the render projection to get some pretty nice alternatives to the standard projection for accommodating wide or extremely wide angle situations. As a special note, for those rendering environments for use in 360 photography, the fisheye polynomial and the fisheye spherical modes should be of great interest to you. With them, You can easily render any Omniverse scene into a usable, spherical, or flattened mapping. Pretty awesome, huh? Now, there are many other settings in the camera, which are more specialty oriented, and will be covered in tutorials where they make sense. Feel free, however, to tinker around with any of the settings you might be curious about, and remember you can return to the default of any changed value by clicking the blue square next to the setting. Cool. So, to finish the tutorial off, I'd like to show you one last thing not directly related to cameras, but is helpful in finalizing your shot. Let's go into the render settings in either real-time or path traced, as it makes no difference. Then select post-processing. Great. In here, we can easily adjust our final pixels with filters over the final rendered image. So adjusting things like color balance, brightness, exposure, and many other things can be easily fine-tuned here. To demonstrate, let's select color correction and enable it with the little checkbox. Now, if we adjust the values, you should see we can adjust the saturation, contrast, gamma, gain, and offset to fine-tune or radically alter our final result. Now, there are too many adjustments in this list to fit into the tutorial, but as mentioned earlier, feel free to experiment and play around. Everything from bloom, motion blurs, TV noise, and film grain can be used to make your visuals unique with a virtually endless amount of control. As you can see in the last few sentences, I have transformed our color image into a grainy, old sepia-toned image. It's that easy. Okay, so that about covers cameras. At this point, you should feel confident enough to work with cameras in any app in the Omniverse and have commanding enough control to get started making some beautiful, unique, and wonderful renders. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye for now.